My Dark Lord, the heroes of man have entered your dungeon. Warriors, wizards, rogues, all of them drunk off their own power and arrogance. They seek to test themselves against your might. But we know better. We will lure them deeper into the dungeon with glittering treasures and hoards of gold. And then, when the time is right, we shall strike and harvest their souls to fuel our infernal powers. And in this way, your dungeon shall be unmatched in terror and villainy. Dungeons is a strategy and management game. In it, you control a Dark Lord whose goal is to protect his underground lair from interloping heroes by filling the hallways and rooms with traps and monsters. Now, the basic gameplay is fairly straightforward. At the start of each mission, you'll be given a small group of goblin minions who you can assign to dig out underground corridors. The map and the corridors work on a simple grid-based system, and once an area has been excavated, you can spend resources to fill those corridors with traps or monster spawners. At this point, heroes will start entering your dungeon with the basic objective of trying to find you, the Dark Lord, and defeat you in combat. Most of them don't stand a chance, but each new wave of heroes gets progressively stronger. So it's in your interest not to get trapped or let the heroes group up. To give you some control, you can also decorate your dungeon to make it look more intimidating and therefore give you a bonus in combat, or you can add treasure piles to strategic rooms. These treasure piles will attract greedy heroes and can help you draw your victims into specific areas. Whenever a hero is defeated in your dungeon, a goblin will come along and drag them to a prison cell, where they will slowly be drained of their life energy. Once a hero has been drained dry, you can use their energy to power up your dungeon, improving your spells or monsters or basic stats. Now, at this point you could be forgiven for thinking that the flow of the game would be equally straightforward. You might just assume that heroes enter your dungeon, you defeat them, and then you drain their soul energy. But it's actually not as simple as that. As it turns out, there's an extra step in the process, and it's that extra step that makes all the difference and really defines the gameplay of dungeons. For you see, heroes don't enter your dungeon with any energy. They have to gather it as they explore, with finding treasure and defeating monsters being the two most common ways that they charge up. Now, it should be noted that when a hero is defeated inside of your dungeon, you only get what soul energy they have accumulated up until that point. So if they are killed too early, you're missing out on extra energy. And you need that resource because it's the only way you have of decorating your dungeon and powering up your monsters. Which means that in the end, it is your goal to populate your dungeon with a specifically formulated arrangement of traps, treasures, and monsters so that your heroes feel like they're making progress, but aren't in any actual danger of being killed. I mean, really, when you look at it from a certain perspective, you're almost running a dungeon-themed amusement park, where your goal is certainly to defeat the heroes, but also to make sure that they have a good time and build up a lot of soul energy beforehand. Now, I have to admit that Dungeons is ultimately a game that I neither expected nor enjoyed. From my own personal perspective, it just seems counterintuitive that in a game about being an evil dungeon lord, you have to constantly babysit these invading heroes and make sure that they're gathering soul energy, especially when you can defeat them so easily. But I can't really criticize a game for not living up to my expectations. The gameplay, such as it is, was modeled on a certain specific design pattern, and when everything's going to plan, that design works in its own special way. However, What I can criticize the game for is being tedious and aggravating, because even if you're playing it how the designers intended, it's still not much fun. The reason I say that Dungeons is tedious is because the core gameplay revolves around constant waiting. I mean, this is a game where as soon as a hero enters your dungeon, you have to immediately wait while they go and find some treasure, and then wait while they go and fight some monsters, and then wait while they go and explore a room, and then wait some more while they shoot the breeze with some of the other heroes. But oh look, they've finally accumulated enough soul energy, and now we can wait while our Dark Lord runs halfway across the dungeon to engage them in combat. But now, thrilling combat has begun, and it's over, because they've been defeated in 3 hits. And if that wasn't enough, I've drawn the aggro of every hero I passed on the way here, and now they're all trying to fight me instead of going off to explore and gather soul energy. Fantastic. The game is never exciting, it's never dangerous. The only time things get close to challenging is when you've done something wrong. Either because the heroes didn't collect enough energy before you defeated them, or even worse, they managed to escape. Which means that you, in turn, did not have the resources to power up your monsters and equipment. But you know what? A lot of management games are tedious, and I could probably live with the tedium by itself if the game wasn't also so aggravating. The reason I say this is because Dungeons is a game that is constantly trying to divide your attention. That in an average game, you're going to be dealing with a dozen different heroes spread across the length of your dungeon, each of them with different wants and desires. And you, as the player, are going to have to be constantly monitoring them, checking on their health and soul energy, trying to determine what mixture of traps or monsters are the most efficient for which class, while at the same time you're trying to constantly excavate new corridors so that you have more room to expand and put down new rooms and acquire new resources. Until, eventually one of the heroes does get maximum soul energy, and now you have to drop everything to go find where they are and defeat them without accidentally killing any of the other dozen heroes in your dungeon. And just when you think you've finally gotten a handle on it, and your dungeon is working at peak efficiency, the heroes will inevitably level up, and at that point all of your calculations are irreversibly skewed. This is a game where not only are you constantly waiting, but you're constantly being distracted while you're waiting as well. Now, I fully admit that part of my complaint is that the game is just not what I was expecting. I was expecting that it would be a strategy game, where in reality it's much more similar to a theme park simulator. And if that's something that you're curious about, then go ahead and check it out. But be warned that even when the game is working as designed, it can still be very frustrating. I would give Dungeons 2 out of 4 stars, but not my general recommendation. It looks and it behaves very similar to other dungeon management games, but in action the gameplay is very different. Alright, thanks for listening. I'm heading back to the mines, but maybe next time we'll see what the world looks like outside the dungeon. Till then.